Alright guys, welcome back to another video tutorial. We've got here an '08 Honda Accord and we're doing front brakes today, front pads and rotors. And as you can see, I already got the wheel off here. Size lug nuts are 19 millimeter. Get those lug nuts off, and then you'll be at this point. So one thing we got is we got our mounting screws here, which are just Phillips screwdrivers. You may need an impact screwdriver to get them off if they're pretty rusted. I just used a ratchet and socket with the Phillips bit in it. Worked just fine. And then from there, I just cracked those loose. I didn't take them out yet. From there, we've got two 14 millimeter bolts here, one on the bottom of the caliper down here. And then you may see that the slide pin is spinning. That's a 19 millimeter. You can put a wrench on it or channel locks or vice grips, whatever you have to hold that so you can get that bolt out. And then after that, we'll pull our pads off and then pull off the mounting bracket bolts, which is one right here. And then if you go down to the bottom here, looks like right there. So there's two of those. They're 17 millimeter. You'll pull those out, and then you should be able to remove the caliper, and then finish removing the set screws, the Phillips screws, and remove the rotor. And then you'll be ready to go back together. So let me get to that point, and I'll be right back. Alright guys, we're back, and you can see I got the caliper and caliper bracket off. I wanted to give a quick tip for when you're getting ready to pull the caliper off while it's here. Kind of hard to hold it there right now because everything's off. But if you guys try to get it off, the caliper is still like pushed out, so you got to try and pry it off. But one thing you can do to make it easier, take like a little flat blade screwdriver, stick it down through this slot and down into one of the vents of the rotor and pry towards you. And what you're doing essentially is pushing that caliper in enough to loosen up the caliper where you can just slide it off without having to pry or anything to get it off. But we got everything off except for the rotor. We're gonna have to probably tap it off with a hammer, but I got all the set screws out. And then once we get ready to go back together, I'll check back with you guys and give you a few other helpful tips. All right, we're back. We got the new rotor on. Quick thing about it, most new rotors, they store them with like a film of oil on them. So I would use a can of brake clean, like so. Spray it on there, wipe it off. It'll help get rid of that oily residue. And then next thing, we got our bracket. Got the new hardware on there. Make sure before you put the new hardware on, you clean up all the rust inside of there, like in the crease where the pads slide. Use like a wire brush or some sort of conditioning pad or something like that. I just used my drill and a wire brush to clean that up. And then once you do that, you're gonna go ahead and take some brake parts lubricant, and you're gonna put it in these guides here, just a little bit in each guide on both sides. And then you're also gonna pull these pins out, and you're gonna put some on there. That way you keep all your parts moving freely and everything. And then you'll also take some and put it on the back of your pad where the caliper touches, which you can see where the calipers touch on the old rotors. Like that, you can tell this is the outside pad because of where it's been pushing on. And this is the one on the actual caliper piston. So you'll put lubricant there on the new one, lubricant here and here on the other new one. But yeah, we'll go ahead and put it all back together get everything tightened up, and then I'll check back with everyone. Thanks. Okay guys, so real quick thing, you can see I got my pads in. You can see the lubricant that I put on the back there. I also got it on the back of the other one there. When you got to push in your caliper when you're putting it back together, because the pad's having more material, they're out more, so the caliper won't just go back on. Now I got this special tool. You can get it from any parts store, but it just kind of ratchets and expands. It expands and it pushes the caliper in back here. But you can also take your old pad, put it in there, and use like a C-clamp, or put the old pad on there and use a big pair of channel locks. Putting the pad on there just helps to protect that piston. So yeah, you can do that, which is what I'm getting ready to do. And then I'm gonna take my two 14mm bolts and tighten that back up, and then we'll be back together. I'll check back with you then. Alright guys, so we're all back together. New rotors, new pads, everything's cleaned up, lubed up, all back together. We're gonna go and put our wheel back on. The lug nuts for this specified torque is 80 foot-pounds. So if you have a torque wrench, go ahead and use that. But if you don't, I mean, just make sure, you know, tighten them up, but don't try and over tighten them, because if you over tighten them, you can warp the rotor, and you'll have to replace that earlier rather than later, because it'll cause a crazy shake in the steering wheel. So 80 foot-pounds, or just really snug it up. Make sure it's tight enough though, you know, but use the specified torque if you can. And yeah guys, pretty easy job, not too hard for any DIYer. Pretty easy. Brakes are, these style brakes are pretty simple, straightforward. So yeah guys, hope this helped. And if you guys don't mind, just subscribe, leave a like on the page, comment, and let me know if you guys have any tips and tricks for this job that I didn't show. I'm always trying to learn more. You can never learn enough when it comes to this trade. So yeah guys, I appreciate it. Appreciate you watching. You guys have a good one.